Hello viewership of Top 5 Scary, I've been told it's a pleasure. My name is Taylor, and as some of you may know, in part of an ongoing effort from the SCP Foundation's new and improved PR department, we've been reaching out to YouTube channels like Top 5 Scary to demystify and explore the nature of our work for the purposes of education and mild recreation. The following SCPs have recently had photos of them declassified, and we thought you as the public might enjoy this. Now all the images you see in this video might not be 100% accurate, some are depictions or recreations, but it was done for your safety. Some latent psychotronic energy can be transmitted through photos. Let's waste no more time and dive on in. Number 5. SCP-3199, the Refuted. Our first entry to be cleared for discussion is SCP-3199, a Keter class object, sometimes referred to colloquially as the Refuted, but we prefer not to use sensationalized words like that internally. This photo you're looking at was a photo taken by a researcher when SCP-3199 was being brought in on its first recovery. SCP-3199 refers to the documentation of an entire species of sapient biological entities of currently indeterminable origin, but we're working on it. We found several tissue samples and have found presence of chicken, chimpanzee, stoat, mussel, adders, and trace amounts of human DNA, muddying the waters of just what exactly our friends here are. Now fascinatingly, these creatures produce eggs to fill unoccupied space within their bodies. They reproduce asexually, and from our studies it's been shown that there does not appear to be a limit to the number of eggs inside a single instance of SCP-3199. It's fascinating. The current theory is that on a long enough timeline, a single instance of SCP-3199 could potentially perform an LK class species transmutation scenario, which I don't think I need to tell you we'd all prefer to avoid. All instances of SCP-3199 carry one egg within a specialized stomach-like organ, assuring that even after death, a living instance will carry on. Interestingly, this egg-laying process appears to cause SCP-3199 extreme distress, with some researchers noting that the sounds produced by the entity are not dissimilar to screaming, to quote the lab report. SCP-3199 is carefully monitored, as the creatures have been shown to be very opportunistic hunters, reacting violently defensive towards live subjects that approach their hatchlings. When an SCP-3199 feels that its young has been threatened, it will attack at a subject in a way I am not entirely authorized to discuss, but the process is quick and it liquefies the internal organs and bone structure of the victim, rendering them dead almost immediately. We have not observed any instances of SCP-3199 consuming prey in this matter. All instances are kept in containers of acid-resistant steel, and in extreme cases, stored in a block of transparent acrylic resin. And if you're curious about more information on bizarre entities from the SCP Foundation or otherwise, please consider a subscription to Top 5 Scary. It's best to stay informed. Number 4. SCP-2774, the Sloth. Don't panic when I tell you some of this. I promise you all of the images that are being shown to you have been carefully vetted and went through all proper channels before being displayed in this video. No one here is looking for a repeat of the SCP-096 incident. SCP-2774 is a Keter class object and refers to any visual medium that contains the subsection SCP-2774-A. This subsection is an image of an unknown, possibly humanoid entity in what appears to be wearing a realistic sloth costume. Now, effects of viewing an image of SCP-2774-A don't occur immediately, but rather gestates on an incubation period of anywhere from 40 to 100 hours after that initial exposure. Those afflicted will slowly begin to lose their cognitive function and higher level decision making, and this usually occurs for short bursts, around 2 to 3 minutes, seemingly at random intervals every 24 hours. Please don't worry, all the images in this video have been heavily edited by the Foundation before being sent over. No threat is present. SCP-2774-A manifests itself in various forms of pre-recorded media. There was a notable incident in Fredericton, New Brunswick, where SCP-2774-A appeared for a few frames on a local television broadcast, which resulted in a mass hysteria case where over 4,000 people had to be tended to and relocated by the Foundation. We currently believe that SCP-277-4A possesses some level of enhanced ability the more people that are currently affected by it at once. It manifests more vividly the more people are affected, so to speak. Those infected by this cognitive loss have been observed to become incredibly fearful and irrational, very agitated. They report no memory loss, but they have no ability to comprehend their affections or understand what is happening. Some subjects in interviews have even reported that they felt completely powerless except to obey their basest thoughts, describing their body performing actions autonomously. We've observed in some cases that subjects who become afflicted by SCP-2744-A develop an obsession. In some longer observations, we've seen effigies, artistic renderings, and even writings being made by the subject. In some of the recovered subjects from the Fredericton incident. You're probably curious how the Foundation works to contain a non-physical object like SCP-2774. Well, I can't disclose everything. We do have automated programs scanning most broadcasts for patterns of it, which are swiftly detected and destroyed. These programs are of course overseen by manual observation. We can't trust everything to artificial intelligence. Any instance in which we have reason to believe a person has been inflicted by SCP-2774 in a way that will cause them serious harm are temporarily relocated to Subject Site 116, where they are given top-of-the-line care from our medical staff round the clock. Number 3. SCP-1471, the app. Another SCP for the digital age is SCP-1471. It's a Euclid-class object, and it refers to an app installed on smartphones, measuring just a little under 10 megabytes of data. It is referred to as Mal-O version 10.1 on digital marketplaces. This app doesn't appear to have any developer or user data attached to it. Now, it goes without saying, but please, after this video, do not attempt to look up or acquire this application. We work tirelessly to keep it from manifesting more. It's proven difficult to remove once it makes its way onto the storage of a mobile phone, oftentimes reinstalling itself or even outright preventing itself from being removed from the phone. After the application has been installed, no icons or shortcuts or even any data appears to be altered. The only noticeable change is that you will begin to receive text messages every 3 to 6 hours, and these messages enclosed will contain images of an entity with a canid-like skull and long flowing black hair. Again, these images that you're seeing, while they are real images of SCP-1471, they have been carefully edited to remove any lasting psychotropic energy. No need to look away. During the first 24 hours after installation, users will receive images taken from places frequented by the afflicted subject. As time progresses on a week-long trajectory, we'll start to see the afflicted user receiving images taken from locations that they have very recently visited, places like a grocery store, a pharmacy, or an office, and so on. On a 72-hour timeline, we begin to see the individual receiving images that have been taken in real time of the subject, with the entity hereto referred to as SCP-1741-A appearing directly behind the subject or in extremely close proximity. These individuals report that the canid skull entity is attempting to make communications with them, although they are unable to. To date, we have not observed any instances of hostile activity from SCP-147-A, and its desires are currently unknown to us. Number 2. SCP-323, the Wendigo. And this one is always a bit popular when we do these PR excursions, so I'm happy to talk about it. This is SCP-323, a Euclid-class object. It manifests as the skull of an unidentified curvid with a pair of massive antlers growing from the left and right sides of the skull. And the skull shows normal outside exposure damage. It's got a bit of scarring, weathering, and bleaching, and a broken lower mandible. Now, interestingly, the back of the skull has a centered depression, and this gap shows signs of tool wear and use, suggesting that the gap was carved with tools, likely stone. And there is a small chance the skull as a whole was carved, but low. SCP-323 appears to have some sort of radius of mental control. We've recorded a very powerful influential effect spreading roughly 15 meters outside of the object. Individuals affected by this radius, which some researchers have unofficially dubbed the terror radius, find themselves overwhelmed with extreme urges, predominantly violent. More often than not, these subjects report feeling extreme desires to consume human flesh. Roughly 3/4 of all individuals that have been afflicted by the terror radius will attempt to place their heads through the gap in SCP-323, keeping their mouth uncovered while they do this. Should a subject find themselves unable to put the skull over their own head, well, we've seen in extreme cases in which the subject will attempt to physically alter the shape of their head, bludgeoning on nearby objects or until the subject expires. Once the subject is able to mask themselves with the skull, we consider them a new entity, hereto referred to as SCP-323-A. And this new entity is shown to have extreme pain resistance and increased strength, but very interestingly does not appear more durable than a standard human subject. This creature then demands food and feels pangs of starvation 15 minutes after transformation. It only seems to consume human flesh, and we have observed it to outright refuse any other sources of meat. It even appears to speak in short statements in Cree, Tawatomi, and Severn Ojibwe languages. Number 1. SCP-106. SCP-106 is a Keter-class object and is one of our more famous, frequently asked about objects. It is sometimes referred to unofficially as the Old Man due to its appearance resembling an elderly human male, albeit one that is severely decomposed. SCP-106 causes a profoundly strong corrosion effect in all solid matter that it makes contact with, causing whatever it touched to break down in a matter of seconds. We've observed this occurring on a wide variety of of substances ranging from things like concrete, steel, plaster to flesh and tissue. You can see it rusting, rotting, and cracking, and a creation of a viscous black-like substance wherever it's been. This substance is highly toxic and is very, very effective at breaking down living tissue. Through this corrosive effect, SCP-106 has been observed being able to pass through solid matter entirely, leaving behind large swaths and trails of the mucus as it vanishes into the surface. While it's doing this, it appears to enter a pocket dimension. It's then able to exit this dimension from any point connected to the original entrance. For example, as a thought experiment, if it connected a point to a wall, it could then exit through the ceiling. As of this recording, we're still trying to ascertain if the dimension is the point of origin for 106, or merely something it accesses. Through limited research and observation, we've discovered that the pocket dimension appears to be comprised of mostly seemingly uninteresting hallways and rooms manifesting as a nondescript office building, following no clear sensible layout. We've seen some cases where victims are pulled into this dimension and kept captive for days on time, but for what purpose though, currently unknown. Thank you so much for watching this video, my friends and viewers. We hope you found it illuminating and entertaining. We'll see you again in the future. It was just gonna go long.
Oh, okay.
Hallucinations and visually. Wow. Hallucinations and visually. Wow, I'm so sorry.